Welcome to Inspiring Business with your host, Mark Bullock, who is the co-founder of videosocials.net and of videointerviewpodcast.com. In every episode, Mark interviews business and organizational thought leaders who share their stories of how they inspire others by making a difference. You can find this show on videosocials.net and YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and almost any podcast platform of your choosing.
Welcome, everyone. And today I'm very, very pleased to have as a guest Katherine Taylor. In full disclosure, Katherine has been a member of one of our services, Video Socials, for a few years now. And I've always been impressed with her, and she's doing really well at what our core values are. But Katherine is a Maryland lawyer, attorney who started her own firm, Taylor Legal, almost 20 years ago. Great to have you on, Katherine.
Thank you. Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm doing wonderfully.
Good. So, again, when I say doing wonderfully, I'm just you're coachable. You're somebody who is poised, qualified, I know does excellent work. I've seen many of your recordings. As you've recorded them, you have a tremendous online presence of very valuable tips and ideas and information. There'll be links attached with this, guys. But Katherine has really embraced the let me share what I know works. And content that's helpful to people, and instead of this constant barrage of quote advertising and or self-promotional kind of stuff, it's literally you have a library now of content that is incredibly valuable to those that might whether they want to work with you or not.
Absolutely.
So. Kudos to you. You've really been running. But I always like to start with, what is your story? How did you choose to become a business lawyer?
So, when I went to college, I studied accounting, took a lot of business courses, but never thought about being a lawyer. I graduated, went to work for a bank, and after a couple of years realized I wanted an advanced degree. I was going back and forth between an MBA or a law school. I didn't have any lawyers in my family, and I talked to a couple of lawyers I knew kind of in throughout that I met, frankly, as like professors in our college courses, and ultimately decided to go to law school. When I got out of law school, I went to work for a large Baltimore firm, doing the big firm gig for enough years to make me realize I didn't want that, going forward too many more years. And then I went to work for local government. And after a while there, I realized it wasn't enough of a challenge for me. Interestingly, at around that time, I knew I wanted to start a business. And I thought of other types of businesses other than law businesses. I really like gardening. I was thinking, getting like some sort of a landscape certification or something like that. But ultimately, I realized, okay, I know law, and so that's the business I'll start. I left local government, with a comfortable job with, good salary and benefits, to, start my own practice and, with no clients, just kind of, learned by doing, watching other people and, kind of slowly growing my practice. So that's pretty much how I got started. There wasn't any grand plan, from the beginning. I probably would have done things differently, looking back. But you learn by doing, and it's been an interesting journey, and I love it. I wouldn't go back at this point to working for somebody else. unless I had to, but hopefully
Right.
that won't happen.
Well, it's awesome, but let's talk a little bit about, this leaving the safety of a job and becoming a business owner, because you help through your legal services
Right.
those that have done basically exactly the same as you. They're entrepreneurs. They're people who are running small businesses, even medium-sized businesses, etc. And they need help with the legal aspects of running those businesses. So you've gone down the same path that most of your clients are going down. So who better to learn from?
Right.
Um,
And I
what?
am able to provide, kind of that experiential background, and
Mhm.
I'll just be like a, coach or a cheerleader for clients just starting out. Saying things like, be patient. Things will improve over time. All those things that I had to tell myself over the years. So, I think I definitely provide a value add on top of the legal knowledge that I bring. I
Mhm.
bring as you said, the experience of having, started and run my own business for a period of years.
Yeah, well, 2 decades, in fact. So,
Yeah.
which is really good. Um, I guess for me, what inspires you as you're working with clients now? Somebody comes in, they've got a problem. Maybe they need some direction. Maybe they need some education. I know from experience of running multiple companies, what we don't know can kill us.
Right.
And as somebody who was in my last company, and I don't want to get into the whole long sad story of it, but basically based on the fact that I was a small fish in a big pond as far as a small consultant for a very large financial organization. When they decided to break my contracts with them and to save money, frankly, it put me into a financial tailspin. And looking back, what was my responsibility in it? My responsibility in it was that I didn't have good contracts. I didn't have good
Mhm.
representation. And so from someone who has literally been bitten, almost to the point of completely knocking me out, um, um, how important is it for people to get their legal ducks in a row with their contracts, with their compliance with tax law, business filings, etc.?
I mean, it's really important. So it's kind of going back a little bit when we're talking about what inspires me. I mean, one reason I work with small businesses. So when I was with a law firm, we represented large businesses. Only businesses that can afford the services of a larger law firm.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that was good. It gave me a lot of experience, but I didn't really work a lot with the people.
Mm,
Sometimes we would work with the department head. What I love about what I do and what really is my passion is working with people. Small businesses are run by people, obviously, and large businesses are also, but there's much more of a hierarchy that you have to deal with. You're not necessarily dealing with, the desires, goals of the individuals, like you are when you're working with a small business owner.
yeah.
And that really is what I love. So, but going back to, uh, you know, what a small business owner needs to do. Yes, I mean, it's really important that key contracts, for instance, I mean, number one, I always almost 100% recommend anybody running a business form an entity. That that's kind of a given. And beyond that, If it's a service professional, then they should have a good contract that they use for their customers or clients, whoever that may be. We have clients who are therapists. We have clients who are, in the healthcare industry, fitness professionals, CPAs. I have a couple lawyer clients, advertising agencies. They run the gamut, but the crux of their business is providing services to clients, and they need a good contract, not only to spell out what they're going to do and the scope of work that they're going to do, but what the rights and obligations of both parties are, and how to get paid. I mean, because that's the key. We're all running businesses to make money, and you have to make sure that the efforts that you put into the work that you do ends up, being paid for by the clients and customers that you serve. We've drafted many service contracts, service agreements, whatever you want to call them, client agreements for our clients, so that they can go into a relationship like that feeling very comfortable. So that's certainly one of the first things. And then, beyond that, there are always legal issues that arise. At the inception of the organization, there are legal questions that need to be answered. What type of entity, who's going to be responsible for the day-to-day operations, that sort of thing. So kind of stepping back, when you have a small business that is owned by more than one person, it's really important for those two or more owners to have an agreement among themselves. If it's an LLC, that's called an operating agreement. In a corporation, that would be, the bylaws of the company and or shareholders agreement. And many people running businesses and starting business at the beginning, because number one, they don't recognize the importance, but also, it costs money to have a lawyer do it. And we certainly recognize that. But at some point, the hope of anybody running a business is that they're going to make enough money to at least be able to hire the professionals that they need to be able to hire, to provide the services that they need going forward.
And I don't want to make this about me, but I'll take a client that I had. So I'm a trained business coach, and a big part of my journey has been in direct coaching for businesses. And I had a client at one point I worked with for many years that had started a professional practice. I'm not even going to talk about what area it's in, because I don't want to give any indication who it was. But they had a professional services independent practice, and they, I used to say that they really had an empire builder mindset. So as time went by, they hired associates, they hired many other practitioners, and grew offices, et cetera. And as time went by, their legal compliances and ethics and things like that all came into play, and had a family member who was an attorney who was not in business law that was helping them with their contracts and whatnot. And sometimes that worked out okay. But where it really failed them, and what ultimately had them close this business that had built into a multi-million-dollar 20 associate kind of business, was a lack of appropriate HR, and specifically in the realm of employment contracts.
Interesting.
And so I'm going to say, I can lead a horse to water, but I can't make them drink. And I had said from the beginning, from the very first employee, you need to have a solid employment contract. And it's like, oh, well, we'll get around to that later. Right.
Right.
And years went by, dozens, right? And so I would encourage that if you're bringing people on, whether they be contractors or actual employees, you need to have an agreement between you.
Right.
It needs to be written, and it needs to be a legally binding agreement, because
Exactly.
you do not know what's going to happen in their life or in your life. Right?
Correct.
And I mean, the problems that this individual had, somebody turned into a drug addict while they were there was embezzlement, there was all kinds of stuff that came about when they thought, look, these are great people, I'm going to hire them, et cetera, et cetera. Well, life circumstances changed, or somebody, I'll go this far, there was a subpoena that came in that required records from somebody that came directly to an associate, and the associate decided that they weren't going, they didn't agree with the subpoena, and so they didn't reply. And can you imagine, so because it's all under the license of the principal, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you're literally putting yourself at the mercy of your employees' best intentions or not, by not having a solid, legal agreement between, that may include non-disclosures, that may include non-competes, but even those are less important than what a behavior is expected, and any legal compliance that might be expected as well. So, I mean, am I off base? Am I off base in that? Or
no? So a small business owner will frequently turn to friends and relatives who are lawyers to, help them with their legal documents. If the person's a business attorney, that's fine. If they're not a business attorney, it could be worse, frankly, them going to one of the online, services and downloading a simple agreement. And a lot of times business owners will say, well, it's worked so far. And my comment is that any agreement will work until you need to rely on it.
I like that. That's
and when you need to rely on it is when there's a dispute. And so if that agreement wasn't drafted with potential disputes in mind, then it's probably not going to help, and it could certainly hurt in certain circumstances. Yeah, it's hard, I think, for business owners who aren't legally trained to understand that. Some might think, well, an agreement's an agreement, but that's certainly not the case.
Yeah, just because we wrote down what makes sense to us, you the employee, me the employer,
Right.
and
Right.
Napkins don't work.
Right.
When it comes,
Absolutely not.
But and as you said, just because you don't anticipate it now, look, you're busy running your business, right? You're busy trying to develop the services, deliver the products, et cetera, and you've got hopes and belief in the people that are working with you, et cetera. But if they make a mistake, that mistake can cost you your business.
Correct.
If you don't have appropriate legal representation and appropriate contracts. So, and I've never been a person who's like stood on contracts. But at the same token, I have literally seen people wiped out, and have myself been wiped out from lack of forethought when it comes to this. So if you're in the Maryland area and you serve basically the whole state of Maryland, or you have a so
we have clients all over the state. Yeah. Most are in the Baltimore, Washington area because that's where we're located. It's a very dense metropolitan area. But I have clients on the Eastern Shore. Eastern Shore is the coast. Down southern Maryland, and then even up into the closer to Pennsylvania. Yeah.
So, but coming back out of the legalese, as it were,
Right.
part of this, the advantage that I see in somebody working with you is because I know that you're not only somebody who knows this stuff, that knows the law and knows how to protect your clients. And I often say, we don't have any customers, we have clients, and I know that that's the case for you, because
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
don't know if you know this, but Webster's dictionary, the difference between a customer and a client: a customer is somebody you sell products and services to. A client is someone under your protection, right?
Oh,
So,
interesting.
so literally, when you're engaging with somebody like Katherine is there to protect you, right? So,
Right.
and whether you see it now or not, not only is she there to protect you, but she's been down this road herself. She has employees. She's started her own business, et cetera, et cetera. So she knows not only from a book perspective or what's written in the law, but from the reality perspective of what it takes to run a business. And I think to close today would probably be, the question of, if you had advice for somebody that's maybe not just started out, but somebody that's looking to take the next step, whatever that is in business, what advice would that be? Or maybe if they're just starting out, whatever makes sense for you.
So yeah, I think there are a number of things, and I mentioned the first thing earlier, and that's be patient. People see these, tech startups out in Silicon Valley, people making billions of dollars. Those are very, very, very few and far between, especially for a professional services business. You're going to slowly but surely build up clientele, bring in that revenue. First couple of years, you might not really have any profit to speak of. So you need to be prepared to be able to be patient, if that makes sense. I always say get a good CPA. Many times I say to people, before you hire a lawyer, hire a CPA, because there are some decisions that need to be made early on about taxation of the business, et cetera, that can really help going forward. And anybody who's doing their own business tax returns is really not spending time doing what they should be doing, unless you're a tax accountant. And that kind of goes into the next tip, and that is to delegate. Even a very small business that doesn't have much revenue. If you don't have any revenue, you really can't hire anybody or, contract with independent contractors. But as you go forward, some of the revenue should be used on a payroll service if you have employees, a bookkeeper, like I said, a CPA, marketing. I tell people all the time, I'm a CPA and a lawyer. I don't do my own books because it's a waste of time. It's just not worth it. That's not what I should be spending my time on. And a lot of those services you can get very reasonably, and it allows the business owner to spend time on what they need to be doing. And I mentioned marketing. I think one thing that people make a mistake about is thinking that marketing is something that's optional. And in order to run a business, you have to have the work. And nowadays, yes, you can get work from referrals, and that is a great source of business for a lot of companies and businesses. But you've got to do the right marketing. When I say right marketing, you've got to figure out what works for you, what you're comfortable doing. And if it's successful, keep on doing it. Be consistent. It's a long game. It's not a short game. So, I see business owners, and I've probably done it myself, looking at a whole lot of different marketing opportunities, let's say. And I think the best way to market is, like I said, figure out what you're good at and what works, and then stick with it. And then along those lines, you've always got to monitor your finances of the business. You've got to know where your money's going, where it's coming from. That will help inform you about decisions you should be making ongoing. And then the last thing, and really the most important thing, is to treat both your customers, clients, and your employees really well. I don't mean pay them a whole lot necessarily. And a lot of small businesses can't afford to pay their employees, even market rate that an employee can make if they went to work for a large company.
Yeah.
But you can also provide a lot of other benefits that larger companies can't provide. Flexibility. There are a lot of things that you can do as an employer to treat employees well and your customers well. And if you do those things, then it will all hopefully, work going forward.
And something that I neglected that you just touched on, here's a business attorney telling you,
right,
get a CPA, learn how to market, and delegate in that process. And there's some things that you really can't delegate. And so, we're self-sponsored, but, you're a member of Video Socials is one of our services. And in Video Socials,
right,
in a very quick capsulation is that you, along with, typically 5 to 10 other people, will get together in a room and a Zoom room and take turns recording our 2 or 3 minute videos. And you've done 70 something of them yourself, and you've got a YouTube channel, et cetera, et cetera. That's there. But we do it together, and we give each other support, encouragement, and feedback. It's a great place to practice and experiment. And guess what? Most of those practices are entirely publishable, and we get comfortable and therefore confident in front of the camera, which is an art in and of itself that takes practice. But why did you join Video Socials, and what does it provide for you?
So I joined. I was put in touch with you guys through a third party, and looked at what you were doing, and I do believe that video is an important and robust way to communicate, and decided to try it out, and saw the successes, I guess, that could be had with doing it on a consistent basis. With my membership has been, as has ebbed and flowed over several years, but overall I've been fairly consistent, and I think that is what makes it successful. Yeah, but and interestingly, I mean, we started doing this. We started doing this before TikTok, and now everybody's doing TikTok. Everybody's doing video because, oh, by the way, video is what really captures people's attention.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Katherine, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you, and I am. We could go on all day. I know we both have other things that we need
have to do it again.
that we need to get to. But thank you again. Again, all of TaylorLegal.com, and then you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We'll include links to all of that.
Thank you.
Associated with this podcast. And I wish you all the best and continued success. And
you too, with your podcast and Video Socials. Keep it up.
We will.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Take care.
You've been listening to Inspiring Business with your host, Mark Bullock. Your positive comments, likes, and most importantly, your sharing of this show with others is greatly appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe to the Inspiring Business Podcast on whatever platform you prefer. You can catch prior episodes on videosocials.net and on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and all the major podcast platforms.